Grand Theft Auto 3 really doesn't waste any time before starting the game. There's a brief cutscene of our silent protagonist getting betrayed by his girlfriend after robbing a bank. While en route to prison, the convoy he's in gets attacked by crooks to set free some evidently important old dude, but the protagonist and another inmate 8-Ball use that opportunity to escape as well. A bomb on the bridge detonates to showcase why our play space is going to be limited at the beginning, and that's it! Done! We're playing! The first mission, drive to your new safe house where one car can be stored and the game saved. Then 8-Ball takes you to one Luigi for a job. Pick up the prostitute Misty from a hospital. The next mission, you get a bat to use against someone pushing drugs to Luigi's girls. A pattern emerges. Missions introduce concepts and systems. From global ones like the core act of driving a vehicle, to smaller ones like honking to call someone in your car. If that someone is a hooker, you can get some health back. You're not the only one capable of participating and interacting with these systems. Some angry dude might break traffic laws just like you can. It's not out of the ordinary to encounter a man or a woman beating the shit out of everyone on the streets and then running away, just like you can. Then an ambulance might arrive at the scene of the crime, and if you want you can steal the ambulance and discover that at a press of a button you can activate special missions where you can save people by bringing them to the hospital, while crushing those in the way if necessary to make it in time. But being too careless might make the ambulance truck flip over, and every car that it does explodes in a few seconds. Oh well, sucks for the patients inside. Maybe beat up some people who arrived to look at the explosion and take their money. And everything I have mentioned can happen in like the first 30 minutes of playtime, which naturally raises a question. What is Grand Theft Auto 3 actually about? I could say that the core pillars of Grand Theft Auto 3 are freedom and agency, but these notions can be interpreted in many different ways. Yes, you are free to do whatever you want within the confines of the game systems, but what does that really mean? So, more specificity is in order. I think it would be fair to state that GTA 3 posits it's fun to observe and participate in chain reactions. And the game is laser focused on that mission statement, a quality that I respect. Starting from our role as a criminal, obviously inherited from the previous games of the series, but still important to note in the context of GTA 3, as not having to follow the law is what allows us to trigger chain reactions. Then there's the setting, Liberty City. It doesn't look like a happy place exactly, grey, moody, with tons of trash laying and flying around. Any explosion provides a colorful contrast, making the place feel more alive, as if nudging to have more of them to bring some happiness to this place. Now, chain reactions need a lot of systems, and those systems have to feel natural and fit within the world. That's why in GTA 3 there's tons of little details that make the surroundings feel more authentic. There's purely aesthetic ones, like the variety of weather conditions, from uncharacteristically sunny with lens flares blinding your eyes, to extremely foggy with all light sources adding a certain haziness to the entire view. But there's also gameplay-related details. Crash into a fire hydrant and water shoots up with droplets falling on your screen. The handling of a truck and a sports car is wildly different, and yet both will have difficulties riding up steep hills. If you start the driving before closing the car door, it will just flap around until the protagonist decides it's too windy. And just some animations for atmosphere to top it off, like the protagonist flipping off drivers blaring at him. It's important for Grand Theft Auto 3 to feel alive, to make it seem like there's always something happening, because most of the time, there is. I assume there's an internal system that makes sure that from time to time randomly selected NPCs trigger certain events nearby. But these NPCs, they're caricatures. They're capable of doing ridiculous shit can happen to them, so they're not real people. This manifests, of course, in very stylized character design, but also in the writing.
Hey, I'm bored. In a moment, sweetheart. I got a little business to take care of.
So it's not a surprise then that the whole world feels like a parody. If we shouldn't take this too seriously. Then why should we take this seriously?
A good shoe starts from the ground up. At Eris, we make high-quality footwear. In fact, you can find Eris running shoes in over 140 countries around the world. In the past, there's been some criticism about our workers. That's why I'm here at one of the Eris factories so you can meet some of them. Excuse me, sir. Do you enjoy your job here?
It's fun. We get to play with knives.
I see. Is there a real sense of teamwork?
My friend Joey sewed his hands together.
Wow, you're learning some real skills. How about the salary and benefits?
Yesterday, I made $1.
See, that's the kind of dedication we have to our employees and the quality of our shoes. Eris running shoes. Always running from something.
It's ridiculous, all of it, and that makes everything feel consistent. Especially considering that GTA 3, despite having a bunch of authentic touches, does not shy away from arcade concepts like glowing, rotating money pickups and other bonuses for some immediate interactions while you go around causing mayhem around Liberty City, potentially racking up wanted levels on the way, which introduces more and more chaotic actors into the fray, and as such, even more so fascinating chain reactions. What ties it all together though is that chain reactions is not just an open world thing you can do while messing around. The mission design itself acts as a catalyst for them. Grand Theft Auto 3 does not tend to have carefully designed missions, and I don't mean this as a bad thing, because those tend to be the worst in the game. For example, there is one where you have to pick up a bunch of Dirty Donkey magazines that fell off a van for the person who stole them. Their positions form a very specific pathway, and there is a constantly ticking down timer that gets up to 1 second with each magazine picked up. Not a bad mission in theory, but in practice, any systemic event or small unexpected thing can easily lead to failure due to how strict everything is. There is a similar mission where you have to pick some items up, photographic evidence of illegal behavior at a morgue party, but those spawn only after ramming into the indestructible car of the person who has the evidence. And once you do start ramming it, the wanted level drastically increases and police get involved. Chain reactions, chaos, fun! After collecting all photos, you have to torch your car with them inside. Get a flamethrower, throw a grenade, or just ram into something until your vehicle catches fire and then escape. That's up to you. Best Grand Theft Auto 3 missions provide a setup and then just let everything evolve naturally from there. You have to assassinate the Don of the Leone crime family when he leaves Luigi's club. The game doesn't force any specific path. Find a place from which you can take him out with a sniper rifle, explode the entire convoy, ram off the road, it's up to you. But when you've got to stay in a particular car with a couple people who must survive because the game wants you to kill a certain number of gang members from a car, specifically either through squashing or drive-by shooting, well, those kinds of missions feel bad because you can't improvise if something unexpected happens. The car gets caught on fire and is about to explode? Too bad! The companions for this mission will stay in it regardless because you must kill everyone from that specific car. The weather just happened to get really stormy when your goal is to destroy a boat from a police vehicle that can shoot only straight? Too bad, with such waves there's practically no way you're going to hit. What's certainly disappointing is that the farther you progress into the game, and you can't ignore main missions if you want to unlock access to all 3 islands of Liberty City, the more of these more strictly designed missions you encounter. Some of the arbitrations are really weird. There is a mission where you have to get access into a compound by finding a Colombian cartel car, which spawn randomly even within their controlled territory. And the search can take anywhere between a minute and dozens. And when you do reach the compound and the gates open, the Colombians recognize you immediately and start shooting anyway. So in that context, it feels like the process of finding that one specific car type was just wasteful. But what if you haven't yet figured out what cars the Colombian cartel drives in? And speaking of gang-controlled territories, the farther you progress into the game, the more criminal groups you piss off and make permanently hostile against you. Should they see you on the streets, be it on foot or in a car, even in one belonging to their group, they will attack immediately. This is another aspect that can really mess up the more strictly designed missions, but also just in general as a system I find it quite annoying since it conflicts with the world opening up, as while that happens you get less and less regions you can go around in without a bunch of people attacking you. And it certainly doesn't help that the core gameplay of Grand Theft Auto 3 is not necessarily the best. Although here I should add some clarifications. The core on-foot gameplay is not necessarily the best, and on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox versions it feels much worse than on PC. Mind you, it's not great on PC either, but at least with keyboard and mouse the protagonist shoots with pinpoint accuracy at the reticle position. Console versions have an auto-aim that just feels broken. First, it's barely possible to properly select the target you want to shoot at. Second, even when you do manage to properly select the target, it feels like the protagonist tries to shoot everywhere except who you're locked onto. The bullet spray is absolutely ridiculous. As a result, some missions that are focused entirely on pure on-foot shooting can feel very frustrating for no good reason. But the cars, your main mode of vehicle transportation, are actually great. They all have very distinct properties. As mentioned before, trucks are heavier and take longer to turn around, race cars can have incredibly fast acceleration and agile handling, and yet all extremes and everything in between feels responsive and satisfying to control in a very arcadey but authentic manner. Except when a vehicle is extremely damaged, and then it can get outright unwieldy, but that makes sense. So it is doubly disappointing that with so many criminal groups ganging up against you, it becomes less possible to use the open world as a personal playground, which is what it clearly was specifically designed for. Liberty City is not that huge of a place. Don't get me wrong, it's not small, but play enough missions in each region and you will gradually learn the layout, to the point that as you progress the minimap will become less important. Which is good considering that most of the time you won't see any icons for weapon stores, paint spray locations that remove your wanted level, and there is no full map of Liberty City to look at, unless you're playing the Android or iOS version that has updated the game with one. The effect of this is that it actually doesn't feel intimidating to explore the place. And as you do, you will find various little details designed to push for systemic actions. Ramps for you to jump from, staircases to rooftops that can be strategically used in missions or just for some mayhem around the city. Oh, what's this? A car behind a glass window? Can you break it? Yes, you can, and the car is a Banshee, one of the fastest ones in the game. Cool! And so Grand Theft Auto 3 places around the city 100 hidden packages to discover during exploration. While there is technically a screen where you can check if you have 100% of the game or not, it's hidden far away enough that GTA 3 doesn't psychologically push one to collect absolutely everything unless they want to. Though, if you do want to, make sure to not complete some missions until certain points, since some can become permanently missable. Anyway, considering the size of the city, it's usually pretty reasonable to find quite a considerable amount of hidden packages just by being curious. Hidden packages have two rewards. The most important one is that for every 10 collected, new bonuses appear near our safe houses. Free weapons, armor, stuff like that. There are bonuses that become available for completing taxi, vigilante, ambulance and firefighter missions too, by the way. One other reason why gang hostility feels like it messes up the flow, since it makes those missions so much more difficult if you're interested in doing them. The other reward is money. Now, money, it's largely useless. You'll get money for every mission, and there are some that require you to collect a certain amount before being able to progress. I guess if not for those, there wouldn't really be anything to spend money on anyway. Yeah, you pay for a paint in a car. Yeah, you have to pay to get weapons and ammo from the stores. But usually they're not that expensive in the first place, and considering that we lose our equipped arsenal when dying, that often feels like wasted purchases anyway. Better pick them up from dead bodies. Plus, since the hidden packages add free weapons near safe houses anyway, they eventually make weapon stores absolutely irrelevant. So yeah, that's not a loop that Grand Theft Auto 3 thinks of much beyond the necessary foundation. Grand Theft Auto 3 worries about having only as much as needed for its core gameplay approaches and principles to work. This applies not just to progression systems, but the story itself as well. Grand Theft Auto 3 is interested in having memorable mission givers. A corrupt police officer who is always stuck in the toilet. A Yakuza boss with a particular interest in S&M. But they're all just that, caricatures, which give missions that are largely random and not really connected into sensible plot threads or anything like that. The whole revenge angle on the girlfriend who betrayed us at the beginning and is now leading her own crime group? Doesn't even feel like a character motivation since our protagonist is nameless and voiceless, a pure player avatar in this chaotic world where stuff just happens. People want us to do random shit with some chuckle-worthy contextualization, because this random shit might lead to interesting systemic interactions and therefore chain reactions, which is what Grand Theft Auto 3 is all about. As I mentioned before, I respect this amount of focus. There is great value in a game knowing exactly what it wants to achieve, even though when it comes to certain aspects that wouldn't really help with my Stasocritic rating system. But Stasocritic is just something I do for fun. It is my personal scoring system with which I summarize my arguments into a number based on specific criteria within the rankings of 5 categories, each of which has their own weight. This shouldn't be seen as a replacement of my arguments, just an interesting way to sum everything up and make sure the numbers aren't just arbitrary. The first category is design, which has the largest weight, that of 4, since the way a game is built and structured defines our experience the most. Now, normally, I would assign a 7. Grand Theft Auto 3 has tons of cool systems that can cause chain reactions which are interesting to experience, even with a somewhat clunky on-foot gameplay, though the vehicle part is polished. The world design pushes towards that, and not all but a considerable amount of mission design too, particularly in the first half of the game. The fact that in the second half there are a lot of missions that go against this is already problematic enough, which is why I say normally I would assign a 7, but there is one flaw that forces me to go for a 6 instead, and that's gang hostility. Now, not all criminal groups become hostile to you throughout the story, but most of them do. So the more you play GTA 3, the more you feel punished for playing GTA 3 and actively dissuaded from doing anything in the open world. And that's just too big to ignore. The next category is emotions. It's all about personal feelings, but since those are still very important, the category has a weight of 3. I will assign a 5. So, I'm from Moldova, and Eastern Europe back in the days historically has been a mostly PC-centric space. GTA 3 was obviously a big PS2 release in 2001, but many in my region couldn't play it until the Windows version was released in 2002. I was 11 at the time, and all my classmates, all my friends, older and younger, were obsessed with GTA 3. They thought it was so cool, so awesome, and I really tried to get into it, but I would get bored really fast. And if it hasn't disappeared from the face of the internet yet, there are some Russian-speaking forums where you might find immature posts from my 11-year-old self calling GTA 3 a stupid game. And you know, now that I'm an adult capable of critical thinking, I still consider GTA 3 to be kinda stupid. The difference being now, I don't think it makes it a bad game because there is a charm to GTA 3's chaotic stupidity. A charm that's not for me. I still don't find the game engaging or interesting on a personal level, but I can see all the good and smart things GTA 3 does to appreciate it on a professional level. And there is quite a lot to appreciate, but I also have to admit that it's not a game for me. Still, when it comes to cohesion, a category with a weight of 2 that focuses on how holistic a game feels, I will assign a 9. Grand Theft Auto 3 knows what it wants. It knows that its focus is on chain reactions of systemic interactions, and everything it does, even when flawed, is done in the name of that. What mechanics are in the game, who the mission givers are as characters and personalities, what the tasks they provide are, the design of the city and actions and reactions of its NPCs. The only reason I can't assign a 10 here is similar to my issues with design. In the second half, GTA 3 tends to go against its own direction. That's a problem. But when it does follow its direction, which is felt the best in the first segment of the game in Portland, the game provides a fully holistic experience where we are an integral part of it. Yeah, some aspects might feel random, but never out of place, because randomness is also part of the point. That point, though, will not help with the context category. That's all about narrative, characters, world building, stuff like that. Here I will have to assign a 6. Grand Theft Auto 3 has enjoyable enough humor. At times it's hilarious, but it doesn't go beyond that, so not much to say really. And finally, we have aesthetics, a category that's all about visual style, sounds, music, and so on. I will assign a 9. I wish I could assign a 10 because honestly GTA 3 does so many things right in this regard. The city looks fantastic and authentic, which helps with making the mechanics feel sensible, and yet the characters are extremely stylized, so all the ridiculous shit doesn't feel out of place. There are some other great decisions too. For example, 99% of the music you're gonna hear is diegetic, most of it obviously coming out of a car's radio, creating this connection between driving a car, which is the game's best mechanic, and the richest soundscape. But all that being said, Grand Theft Auto 3 has a bunch of weird-looking animations, camera angles that attempt to be cinematic but are out of place. A lot of voice acting is good, but there is also a lot that, quite frankly, isn't. Uneven voice levels when driving, even when you're decreasing the music sound volume. I don't expect perfection for a 10, in an open-world game like GTA 3, especially with the amount of interacting systems that it's got. But a high degree of consistency is required, and GTA 3 sadly lacks it. When all scores and their weights are taken into account, Grand Theft Auto 3 is going to receive a final Stasocritic rating of 65. Now, I should note that because Stasocritic is a system where absolutely every number has a meaning, the whole spectrum of scores is used. The range of 60s means that the game is nice and can be enjoyed by those who know what to expect. And from GTA 3, one can expect a lot of chaotic action. Chaotic action that's not quite implemented in a way that I would enjoy personally myself. But I admire Grand Theft Auto 3. I'm not that kid anymore who doesn't understand what possibly could anyone find appealing here. I do understand. It's not for me, it might not be for you either, but if it is, well, even though the game is not perfect, there's still lots of fun to be found.